The living room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. Light filtered in through pale curtains, casting long stripes across the beige carpet. Myra sat perfectly still at the dining table, her crimson dress stark against the neutral decor. In her hand, she held a single photograph, slightly curled at the edges. Weathered by time, she placed it gently on the table. In the photograph, a younger Rayon stood with his arm around a woman Myra didn't recognize. They were smiling. Between them stood a toddler, no older than 2. The child clutched a small toy airplane, his face turned toward the camera. The woman's hand rested on the boy's shoulder. It was the kind of photo that looked innocent at first glance, until you realized you'd never seen it before, and that your husband never mentioned a child. The front door clicked open. Myra didn't move. She heard the sound of keys being dropped into the ceramic bowl on the console table. Then Rayon's footsteps approaching. "Hey," he called, setting down a grocery bag. "You home early?" He stopped cold when he saw her. His eyes darted to the photo on the table. He didn't speak, but Myra caught the flicker of recognition in his eyes, the tightening of his jaw, the tremble in his hand as he reached for the back of the chair. Myra's voice was calm but icy. "Who are they, Rayan?" He said nothing. She picked up the photograph again, holding it just high enough for him to see. "This was in your desk drawer, hidden behind an old tax file. You were careful, but not careful enough." Rayan slowly sat down across from her, burying his face in his hands. "Please," he murmured. "Please what?" Her voice rose, cracking. "Slightly, please don't ask. Please forget that there's a child in this photo, a woman I've never met. Who are they, Rayan?" He shook his head. "It's not what you think." Mira leaned forward, her fingers clenched around the photo. "Then explain it to me, because right now it looks like you had a family before me. A real family, and you never said a word." Rayan looked up. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from the weight of something long buried. "Her name was Layla," he said quietly. She was someone I knew a long time ago, before you, before everything and the child." Mira pressed. His silence was answer enough. "Oh my God." She leaned back, disbelief settling like dust in her lungs. "You have a son." "I had," he whispered. "I had a son." Myra stared at him, trying to stitch together the fragments of this new reality. "You told me everything before we got married, or so I thought. You made me believe there were no loose ends. I was trying to protect you, to protect us." He said, "No, Rayan, you were protecting yourself." He looked away. Mira's voice dropped, quieter now, but heavier with pain. "Was she your wife?" "No," he said. "We weren't married. It was complicated. After she left, I never saw them again. She moved, changed her number. I thought." He paused. "I thought they were gone. But you kept the photo, yes, and you never told me." Her lips quivered. "You let me build a life. With you on half a truth." The clock ticked on the wall. Somewhere outside, a child laughed on a nearby street. The sound felt cruel. "I didn't know how to tell you," Rayan said. "By the time I wanted to, it felt too late. And then years went by. I thought burying it was the only way to move on." "People bury things they're ashamed of," Myra said. "Not their children." The silence between them stretched longer than either could bear. Finally, Myra stood. Her chair scraped sharply against the tile floor. She looked at him one last time, this man she thought she knew, whose hands now trembled on the table like a guilty schoolboy caught with a lie. She turned and walked into the hallway. The photograph still in her hand. Rayan didn't follow. On the table, in the soft evening light, the empty space where the photo had rested seemed larger than before, as if the truth had left a shadow behind. The photo lay face down on the coffee table now. Myra hadn't thrown it away, not yet, but she couldn't look at it again. It felt radioactive. Every time she passed the table, she could feel it, like heat from a barely contained fire. Had left the house early, avoiding eye contact and mumbling something about work. She didn't stop him. She needed space, not just from him, but from the suffocating weight of what she'd learnt. Her husband had a child, a son, and he never told her. But she didn't want to just sit and stew. She needed answers, and she knew where to start. She scrolled through her contacts until she landed on a name she hadn't tapped in years. Sana Rayan's old colleague. She hesitated, then hit call. "Hello, Sana. It's Myra. Myra Qureshi." "Oh, hi. Wow. It's been a long time. Everything okay?" Myra didn't bother sugarcoating. "I need to ask you something. Off the record, about Rayan." There was a pause on the other end, then go on. "Do you remember anyone named Layla from when you and Rayan worked at Global Tech?" This would have been maybe 12 or 13 years ago. Another pause, longer this time. "I do, actually," Sana said slowly. She was in marketing, quiet but smart. There were rumors she and Rayan, well, they were close. "Did you ever meet her? Once or twice? Why, do you know what happened to her?" Sana exhaled. "She passed away. Car accident, I think. Around 2011. It was sudden." The words hit Myra like cold water. She had expected a confrontation, not a eulogy. She had a child, didn't she? Yeah, a boy. I think she was raising him alone at that point. People didn't talk about it much. Office gossip faded after she left. Myra closed her eyes. "Thank you. Wait, why are you asking? Did something happen?" Myra hung up without answering. An hour later, she stood outside a nondescript storage facility. The place was barely maintained. Peeling paint, buzzed gates, a flickering fluorescent bulb over the main door. She wouldn't have known about it if she hadn't seen Rayan's location history synced to the car's GPS. She hated spying, but she hated being lied to more. She followed the winding corridor until she reached Unit 27B. The door was slightly ajar. She peered in, her breath caught in her throat. Rayan stood inside, hunched over a large plastic container. His back was to her. He held a small stack of papers in his hand. As he turned to leave, Myra stepped behind a pillar, watching him carry the box out to the car. After he disappeared, she slipped into the unit. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust and secrets. One box stood open, half unpacked. Files, photos, a tiny airplane toy, just like the one in the photo. Myra felt her chest tighten. Taped to the side of the box was a torn label. 2009, Lahore. She crouched down and reached inside. Her fingers closed around a worn piece of paper. A birth certificate name, Ayan. Mother, Layla Khan. Father, Rayan Qureshi. Her stomach flipped. He hadn't just known about the boy. He was officially listed as the father. This wasn't a past Rayan had stumbled into. It was a life he'd helped create, and then abandoned. Myra stood up, the certificate trembling in her hand. For a moment she wanted to scream, but instead she carefully placed it back in the box. If Rayan knew she had seen it, he'd shut down. And she needed to know everything before she confronted him again. Back home, she paced the living room, the photo back in her hands. Why didn't he ever tell me? Where is Ayan now? Does he even know his father exists? A small sound interrupted her thoughts, the door unlocking. Rayan stepped inside, carrying the same box she'd seen in the storage unit. When he saw Mira, his expression shifted from surprise to guilt. You followed me, he said flatly. She didn't deny it. You didn't give me much of a choice. He set the box down on the floor, avoiding her eyes. I was going to tell you. I needed to go through everything first. She gestured toward the box. Why now, after all these years? Rayan hesitated, then finally spoke. Because I think Ayan is looking for me. Mira froze. What? I got an email a week ago. No name, just a question. Were you ever in Lahore in 2009? Did you know Layla? I didn't respond. But then he sent a photo, one of me and Layla, at the park. Mira's heart raced. So, he's alive. Rayan nodded. And he's trying to find out who I am. Mira stared at the box, her thoughts spiraling. Somewhere out there was a teenage boy searching for the truth. And she was married to the man who'd hidden it from everyone. What are you going to do? She asked softly. Rayan didn't answer. He just sat down, placed the photograph between them again, and whispered the name he hadn't said aloud in years, Ayan. The house felt quieter than usual that night, the kind of quiet that didn't comfort but unsettled. Myra sat by the window, the lights off, the city beyond the glass buzzing in soft glows and distant murmurs. Rayan was in the other room, rummaging through the box from storage, but Mira didn't need to see him. She needed time to process, to rebuild the walls inside her mind that had been knocked down by the truth. He had a son, not just a forgotten story or a regretful chapter, a living, breathing person out there, looking for answers. Do you want to see the email? Rayan asked from the doorway. Myra looked at him, then nodded once. He handed her his phone and stood silently as she read. From unknown sender 17@gmail.com, subject, Lahore, 2009. Were you ever in Lahore in 2009? Did you know someone named Layla? Con. Please reply if this means anything to you. Below the message was an attachment. Myra opened it. It was a photograph, not the one she'd found, but another. Younger Rayan and Layla sat on a picnic blanket in a park, a juice box in the child's hand. They looked like a family dot. Myra stared at it for a long time. Why didn't you respond? She asked. I was afraid, Rayan said quietly. Afraid of what I'd see if I opened that door. Of what I'd have to tell you. Of how it would change everything. She looked up at him. You didn't just avoid him. You avoided the truth. For 17 years, Rayan, I know. Do you know what it feels like to realize the person you married is a stranger? He sat across from her, visibly worn. I never stopped thinking about him. But when Layla left with Ayan, she didn't want me involved. She made that clear. She didn't trust me anymore. I tried to contact her, once or twice, but then I stopped. I told myself it was for the best, that he'd have a better life without me. Mira folded her arms tightly, not to distance herself from him, but to keep herself from breaking apart. You still could have told me. I would have understood, or at least tried. I wanted a clean start with you, a life untouched by all the mistakes I'd made. But burying the past doesn't erase it, it just grows teeth. They sat in silence. Rayan opened the box again and took out a school report, faded with age. He would be 17 now, maybe 18. That means he's probably close. I don't know if he wants revenge, or answers, or just a face to put to the name, maybe, Mira said. He just wants to be acknowledged. He looked at her. Would it be wrong if I met him? Mira didn't answer right away. Her heart said no, not because it wasn't painful, but because it wasn't about her. No, she said finally. He deserves that much. But so do I. No more lies, Rayan. If you want to fix this, you fix everything, not just with him, but with us. Rayan nodded, guilt and gratitude crashing together in his eyes. Just then, the doorbell rang. Both of them froze. Rayan checked the time. Nearly 9 p.m., he approached the door cautiously and opened it. Standing there was a young man, Lian, with dark, observant eyes and features that unmistakably echoed Rayan's. He held nothing but a small backpack. His expression wasn't angry, it was uncertain. "Are you Rayan Qureshi?" the boy asked. Rayan didn't answer for a moment. Then, with a breath that shook him to the core, he said, "Yes, I am." The boy hesitated, then extended his hand. "I'm Ion." Myra stepped into view, and their eyes met hers, filled with the storm of betrayal and understanding, his with questions no one had ever answered. Rayan stepped back, letting him in. The three of them stood in the entryway, the past and present colliding in the silence. Ion looked around, eyes lingering. On the photo frame still lying on the table. "I've seen that one before," he said. Myra watched him carefully. "How it was in my mother's things. She kept it hidden in a locked box. I found it after she died." Rayan's voice cracked. "I didn't know she'd passed. 3 years ago, car crash. She never talked about you. I had to piece everything together myself." Ion dropped his backpack by the door. "I don't know what I'm doing here," he admitted. "I don't even know if I want anything from you. But I had to look you in the eyes. Just once." And he did. He looked at Rayan for a long time, and for the first time in years, Rayan didn't turn away. The kitchen clock ticked past midnight. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound breaking the silence. Myra sat at the table, her fingers wrapped around a half-empty mug of tea, now cold. Across from her, Ion picked at the corner of a napkin, his head low but his eyes constantly moving, scanning the house. The photographs on the shelves, the painting above the fireplace. Rayan stood near the sink, arms crossed, like he couldn't decide whether to stay or leave the room. "So," Mira finally said, voice calm but taut, "where are you staying?" Ion shrugged. "A friend's place. I was in Karachi for a while. Took a bus here, alone." Rayan asked gently. "Yan?" Gave him a dry look. "I've been alone for a while." The words landed like a punch. Rayan looked away, guilt carving new lines into his face. "I have a few more nights at my friend's," Ion added. "After that, I don't know." Myra inhaled slowly. She hadn't planned on saying it, it just came out. "You can stay here, at least for a few days." Both men turned to look at her. Rayan's brows lifted slightly in surprise. Ion looked stunned. "It's just a guest room," she added. "No expectations. No pressure." Ion's posture shifted slightly, but he nodded. "Thanks." Mira stood and went to prepare a mattress in the spare room. As she unfolded the blanket, her hands trembled. She had no idea what tomorrow would look like, or the day after that. but she couldn't send that boy back into the night, back in the kitchen. Rayan and Ayan remained at the table. I used to dream about what you'd be like, Ayan said. I imagined you were some kind of doctor, or a soldier. Rayan smiled faintly, not quite. I fix data for a living. Ayan gave a small, polite laugh. Yeah, I figured that out already. Rayan looked at him. What do you remember about your mum? Everything. Eon's voice turned soft. She was smart, tough, she worked hard. She loved music in the mornings and drank way too much black coffee. She didn't talk about the past, but sometimes, when she thought I was asleep, I'd hear her crying. Rayon's face tensed. I never stopped thinking about her, or about you. Then why didn't you come? Ion's tone sharpened, the weight of 17 years pressing into each word. Why didn't you fight for me? I was young. I didn't know how. I made mistakes. She said she didn't want me in your life. She said a lot of things, Ion murmured, eyes narrowing. You never asked why. Rayon tried to speak, but nothing came out. Ion stood, pacing to the bookshelf. She kept a letter. I only found it a few weeks ago, sealed. It was addressed to me. She wrote it before she died. It didn't paint you in the best light. Rayon stiffened. What did she say? That you hurt her? That you were reckless? That she left because she was scared? Rayon's face went pale. I don't know what to believe, Ayan said. She never told me everything. And now I'm here, and you're just a man, not a monster, not a hero. Just confused and scared, like everyone else. Mira stepped back into the room, stopping mid-step. She had heard the last few lines. She wrote a letter. She asked carefully. Ayan turned. Yeah, it's in my backpack. May I see it? He hesitated, then nodded and retrieved it. The envelope was worn, edges soft. Mira took it with a gentle hand. Thank you, she said. I'll give it back. I need to read it. That night, while Rayan and Ayan retired to their rooms, one overwhelmed, the other unsure, Myra sat alone on the couch. She opened the letter. Dear Ayan, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to answer your questions. And I know you have many. You may have found the photo. You may be wondering about him, your father and I. We loved each other once, but love isn't always safe. There were days I feared him, days he feared himself. He made promises he couldn't keep, and I left because I believed it was the only way to protect you. He didn't fight to keep us. Maybe he was afraid, or maybe he knew he'd already lost. Have his eyes, his hands. I wish you didn't, but I hope one day you'll make peace with both halves of yourself. Forgive him if you can, and forgive me, too, for all that I kept from you. Mom Mira folded the letter, her hands shaking. It wasn't a confession, it was a wound, written in ink. Rayan hadn't told the full truth. He may have buried his guilt so deep that even he didn't see it anymore. But it was there, and now Ayan carried it too, as she slipped the letter back into the envelope. Mira realized something terrifying. This story wasn't just about Rayan and Ayan. It was about her too, what she would choose to do with the truth she now held. The morning sun filtered gently through the curtains, casting soft gold on the living room walls. Mira sat alone at the dining table, the letter folded neatly in front of her like a sacred document. She had barely slept. Her eyes burned, but her thoughts were sharper than ever. Upstairs, she could hear faint footsteps. Ayan, waking up. Rayan's voice followed, murmuring something low. A door closed. Water ran. The house felt full now, but not with warmth. It was filled with ghosts. When Ayan came downstairs, Mira offered him tea. He nodded politely and sat across from her. She slid the letter back across the table. I read it, she said. Ayan nodded. It doesn't explain everything, but it's something. She was a mother protecting her son, Mira said, even if it meant leaving out the parts that didn't fit. She never told me he tried to find us, Ayan said. She made it sound like he just let us go. Mira studied him. And do you believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. He looked down at his cup. He seems broken about it, but maybe he should be. Before Mira could respond, Rayan entered the room. He looked like he hadn't slept either, stubble thick on his chin, shirt wrinkled from tossing and turning. Can we talk? He asked them both. They nodded. Rayan took a deep breath. I wasn't a good man when I was with Layla. I was impulsive, selfish. I had ambition, but no direction. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I didn't leave her, but I also didn't stand by her the way I should have. He paused. When Ayan was born, I tried to be involved, but Layla didn't trust me with good reason. We fought too often. I said things I regret. Once I shoved her during an argument. She didn't fall. She didn't report it, but she left the next day. Mira's throat tightened. I never laid a hand on her again, I swear, but I didn't deserve her trust after that. I thought giving her space was the right thing, but really, I just took the easy way out. I told myself she'd come back when she was ready, but she never did. He looked at Ayan now. I'm sorry, I should have fought to stay in your life. Even if she told me not to, even if it made things messy. Ayan didn't speak for a long time. Then, you're right, you should have. The air between them hung heavy with the words they hadn't yet learned how to say. Rayan stood. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do want the chance to know you, even a little. I don't know if I'm ready for that, Ayan said, his voice tight. I came here for answers. I got some, but that doesn't mean I know what to do next. You don't have to decide today, Mira said gently. Ayan turned to her. You've been kind, more than I expected. Thank you for that. Myra smiled faintly. I don't know what this makes me to you, stepmother, stranger, witness. But I do know what it makes you, a young man who deserved better, from both of us. Ayan nodded, eyes slightly glossy. A few hours later, he packed his bag, said he needed to think, process, maybe stay with his friend a few more nights. I'll text, he promised, at the door. Promise to answer when we text you to. Rayan said. Ayan gave a small smirk. Deal. Then he was gone that night. The house fell quiet again, but it wasn't the same quiet as before. Rayan sat on the edge of the bed while Myra stood by the window, arms folded. I want to fix this, he said. Not just with him, with you, Mira. Didn't look at him. You can't fix what you never acknowledged, she said softly. For years, I thought we had something whole, and now I realize I only ever saw part of you. I'll give you whatever time you need, he said, or space, whatever it takes. She turned. I need honesty. No more half-truths. No more silence. He nodded. You'll have it. She studied him for a long moment, then finally said, I'm going to my sister's for a few days. I need to clear my head. Rayan didn't argue as she packed, she found the photo again, the one that started it all. She stared at it for a moment, then placed it carefully in an envelope. She left it on the dining table, addressed not to Rayan, but to Ayan. When she walked out the door, it wasn't with anger, it was with clarity. Some things would never be fully resolved, some wounds never fully healed, but truth, finally spoken, had cracked the silence wide open, and that, at least, was a start.